Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Motorist Modernization Advisory Board for Phase 2, Tuesday, August 10th. Thank you all. And we're going to remind everyone this is a public meeting being recorded, and we're going to start with roll call. So start with Stephen.
Here, Terrence.
Lieutenant Britt.
Here.
Diane.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Steve, who I believe is going to be absent for this meeting. Scott Lunsford, who I know I saw him log on. We'll come back to Scott. Sherry, who I believe is out as well, and Sergeant Joseph.
Hey, Terrence, this is Steve. I'm on the call.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be out, Steve.
I
Scott.
was going to be.
Okay. Scott may be
Here.
there he is. All right. So now we will have the reading of the last meeting minutes. Rachel.
Good afternoon, everyone. The last meeting was held on July 13th. The May 11th meeting minutes were reviewed and approved. Terrence Samuel welcomed new Phase 2 Advisory Board member Scott Lunsford. Greg Williams presented a Phase 2 IVMV update. There was no stakeholder outreach update at the meeting. At the top of page 2, Janice Timmons presented a Phase 2 financial review. This was followed by the Phase 2 project updates that began with an update on teams A, B, and My DMV portal. This also included an update on the IFTA IRP team, Florida Smart ID team, and then this continued on to page 3 with an update on the ECM team. There was no communications update at the meeting, and there were no questions or concerns from members present. The meeting was adjourned at 2:50 p.m. and at the bottom of page 3, you can see the items that were distributed in a meeting packet prior to the meeting.
Any questions, comments, or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, well, mark this as approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kristen and Rachel. Next agenda item is the IVMV update. Margie.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Terrence. Good afternoon, everyone. This IVMV report is as of June 30th, 2021. The overall risk remains amber. The scheduled performance index was 0.962, with the 4-week moving average not improving, and 19 of the 1,616 total tasks were late. The to complete schedule performance index was 1.059, with the 4-week remaining average not improving. And the project completion date was forecasted to be 22.3 days late. Next slide, please. And one more. And one more. Thank you. There is one open deficiency as reported last month regarding the lack of an integrated resource pool. And with the process that Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles has in place, the deficiency continues to trend to green. Does anybody have any questions for IVNV? Thank you, Terrence.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the, I don't believe we have a stakeholder outreach update for Phase 2. So we'll move on to financial review. Janice.
Good afternoon, everyone. These financials are for the current fiscal year. And our current fiscal year, we have a budget of 10.496. with contracted services being 9 million of that. Actually, a little more because IVNV is 400 of that, 400. And then expenses 904,000 and OCO at 30,000. So as you can see, our contracted services with IVNV is actually 91% of our current year budget. And we also broke it down by, just as a quick summary, so you can see where our money actually is spent. A lot of it in the contracts are either through RFP or ITNs or RFQs. Contracted services are also RFQs. Our expenses in this 904,000 are usually always software expenses. So it's pretty easily dedicated to certain things that you can tie each individual dollar back to. For the month of July, very quick and easy expense of $382,000 in contracted services. We didn't have anything else. So we had 0% variance fiscal year to date, 0% variance in July with remaining funds of 10.1 million. Are there any questions for the month of July?
Okay, no questions for Janice. We'll move on to project updates. Joe?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with where we're at with Team A. The team's currently in HIP sprint for milestone G. His sprint ends today, and the team is worked through their demo and retro today and is in the middle of sprint planning. They're continuing to work on milestone C user stories, development testing, planning to get those closed out with this next sprint, committing to that remaining work. They are continuing refinement on milestone D user stories. Also working with AMVA, trying to close out the open action items we had related to Navitas. The last item that we had was some updates to our Navitas questionnaire. Those were due originally on the 5th of August. We responded, and AMVA came back with some more questions, to which we've since responded last week as well. So we're on target with that. Team B Globals, they're also in HIP sprint for milestone G. That ends for them tomorrow. They are continuing to work on the milestone E user stories, that refinement, development, testing. They also began to work on some of their milestone F stories, just due to being blocked on some of those milestone E stories due to dependencies on external parties. Andrea, you want to give an update on Portal?
Yes, Joe, thanks. Portal Fleet is currently in milestone G HIP sprint, which ends on August the 12th. The team is testing milestone C stories. We have approximately 33 of those stories left to finalize the testing. We completed some within this week and within this day. So we have 3 stories remaining for the function of the motor vehicle records request testing, and the development team is developing for milestone D stories, and we started testing for that as well. Some important activities we have going on is the ICFS go live date, which is October the 29th, and MV Express renewal, and My DMV portal readiness for FSID, which is the Florida Smart ID feature. And so the key dependencies is continual progress of the milestone D development stories and the split testing of resources on the milestone C and D stories for continual progress. We are waiting to be approval of the CR to realign the milestone dates and the features. Portal specific risk and issues that we have been logging, risk 99, which we closed. The phase 2 team was unable to deploy changes to test due to operations needing the test environment, and they were sharing the same environment when Portal had production issues. So that was impacting the team's ability to complete testing per the schedule. So we created a new URL for the Portal team. Therefore, it would not be impacted by production deployments. Currently, we have issue 28, where the developers from the Portal team is also sharing time with another project, which is the ECM functionality. And that will continue until that project is closed out. Currently, the team profile is, we got 4 developers and 7 testers. The business actions is green, the technical debt is green, development is red, testing is red, and backlog is red. And that will not change until we realign with the CR, the milestones. Any questions for Portal? Thanks.
Thanks, Andrea. And sorry, I forgot we had switched to the state of the state for Portal.
That's okay.
So if we can switch over to the state of the state presentation, please. Scott, you want to give us an update on IFTA IRP?
Sure thing. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Summary, our team concluded Milestone B HIP Sprint today. Focus was the IFTA services to complete that during Milestone B. However, we had decal license issuance feature integration, making sure all the pieces of decal issuance was completed and ready for Celtic. We had to make sure that feature integration was completed. That work is going to carry over. And then, of course, we had to look at tax return issuance. It was an epic level story. We broke it down into 3 smaller chunks at the end of Sprint 8 and into the HIP Sprint. Had some challenges for getting that aligned with the requirements, got that in place, and now with the work that we identified not originally accounted for, we have to carry that over into Milestone C Sprint 9. So with that said, Milestone C will focus on IRP service endpoints for Celtic to configure against, but we need to address those 2 pieces of IFTA before we can say Milestone B is completed. And that's what you'll see on our stoplight report. Orion integration, Milestone B would be reported late. Milestone C, getting into it, we're actually going to make sure that we complete IFTA first, then get into the IRP. And that's why we've got that listed as red. All the other stoplights are indicated as green, and because we've addressed all the PVDs. The ICD integrations that the vendor was requiring that could be completed and signed off, we got that done. We've moved into, from a deliverable perspective, the security testing plan. That'll be November. That's our next deliverable, major deliverable. So looking at the important activities for August, if you remember, we had some JAD sessions set up to complete once the audit was done. That was completed in July. Now we're actually transitioning those meetings to address that one item that's listed in the bottom left corner. We must increase the velocity for pre-refinement activities, making those stories ready for the code release that Celtic is planning for IFTA the end of September, early October. So we're working towards that to make sure we're on task with that. In addition to the most important, having all those endpoints is available for Celtic, IFTA, and IRP, so they can code and configure their system. Looking over at the IFTA IRP specific risk and issues. If you remember, we had issue number 43 that we're tracking. We closed that. The resources are available. In addition, we had 1 resource assigned to the project. We were noticing that we were delivering a lot of the endpoints towards the end of the sprints and at the end of the milestone HIP sprint. So we also kind of included some additional developers who were not part of the coding to partake in making sure that the quality of the code is ready for Celtic to be released. We have created 1 issue, number 46, vendor staffing challenges related to development resources. One underlying factor is the COVID. In addition to the job market and the area for the vendor, the local state resources accepted a job. And then, of course, they found other jobs. So we're having challenges there. We mitigated that. But the bigger item that's related to this risk or issue, excuse me, is they were targeting resources to come over from India to assist on the major development on their side. They're looking like it's going to be February 2022 before they're actually going to join us stateside. So we're working and looking at the schedule to see that kind of the impact of that. But I think we are going to be coming back to you guys and giving you an update on the impact of the schedule. That's it for me. Any questions or comments? None? Back to you, Joe.
Sure. I see both Jay and Jeff have their hand raised. Are there questions?
Jeff was first.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And my question is not about this specifically. I raised it earlier. Feel free to tell me when you would like me to ask, but I have some questions about the Smart ID program.
Well, that's right on, because we're actually moving to that next. So, but Jay, question related to IRP before we go to.
Yes, sir. I just want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Scott and the ISA staff that's been engaged. Now that we've completed, I guess, 3 series of intensive JAD sessions on first IFTA, then IRP, and now our audit section, which we just wound up, that, Scott's done a really great job for us, and want to give him a shout out. It's been a big lift, this project.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. But
That's
our
great.
product owners helped as well.
Great to hear. Thanks, Jay.
Yes, thank you for the feedback. All right, if we can move to the next slide, Florida Smart ID. I'll go through my status on Florida Smart ID, then I'll take your questions. So specifically on Florida Smart ID, the main thing you'll see there in red in the middle is deliverables that were due in the next 30, 60 days is the onboarding of additional MDL vendors. That was supposed to have completed in June. It's not completed. We have risk 42, or excuse me, issue 42 related to that. We have been working with Terrace as well, as we had an initial meeting with Get Group and with Idemia to talk through their readiness and what the major concerns were. We talked through the branding of the Florida Smart ID. So at this point, they are waiting to get the updated or draft version of that subcontract agreement with Terrace so they can move forward, with estimates to have their apps ready. So that's an important thing, because we don't want to go live until they've had a chance to do that particular programming, to make sure that they can be live at the same time as Terrace with the Florida Smart ID. For phase 2 activities, so we had launched our stakeholder survey. This is for day 2, this Monday, in fact. And the focus of that survey is to find out some questions related to adoption of the Florida Smart ID to help us drive out the use cases for that phase 2 implementation. And we do continue to work on those phase 2 designs, work products with Terrace, trying to get those closed out so that they can get that development started. We're also trying to get the last few defects related to UAT, that issue 34 in the middle, closed out. We're waiting right now at this point. Terrace has their last set of bugs ready and in stage, waiting for Google to approve the apps in the App Store so we can get those last bugs closed out and close out UAT. That's why, from a scope schedule perspective, we are showing yellow. Obviously, we have not closed out all the UAT. We are a little bit behind on getting the designs for phase 2 closed out. Yellow for business apps is probably, could be red based on needing to get that onboarding done so that we can move forward with additional vendors, getting them on board. Did that answer your questions? Are there other questions for Florida Smart ID?
This is Jeff. It may have, although I have, just an observer and my first time hearing one of these meetings, so I have no idea what any of the terms or names that you've used. So frankly, I have no clear understanding of where we are in the project. But let me say this, my concern, and the reason I found this meeting to try and join it is, and by the way, let me preface this with making it abundantly clear that I'm just a private citizen. I have no affiliation with any companies that have anything to do with this, potential conflicts, nothing. I'm not with the press, nothing. I'm just a private citizen who happens to have a background in IT. When Apple, a few months ago, released the news that in their next version of the iPhone or the iPhone software, there's going to be built-in support for the secure storage of government-issued IDs. I did a little bit of reading of that, and I was surprised to learn that Florida had this program underway. So I found finally a page about the program on one of the government pages. I was delighted. I sent an email, which I guess eventually got answered by one of your folks there, Coral Grigg. She was very nice, very prompt. I just asked about participating in the pilot program. Again, she was very nice. As soon as I started asking questions, though, I was shocked at the batten down the hatches, radio silence, no responses to several emails, several voicemails. When I finally left enough voicemails and messages to get a response from her, it was a very buttoned up, cold boilerplate, as if you guys were afraid of a lawsuit. And apparently it was at the direction of Terrace Samuel. So before I get to the question that led me just to innocently contact you guys, I asked her again to just please have him call me. Maybe he could easily answer my questions. And Terrence, I'm not sure if you're still on, so I'm happy to hear from you. That got forwarded over to a guy, another guy who answered, Aaron, Director of Communications. I thanked him, but said, no, I can't really go back and forth on a technical question through email through a third guy who probably wouldn't understand it. It'd probably be easier to speak with Terry, and no response from him now in 5 days. So I'm very disturbed at what appears to be, and maybe I'm wrong, but what appears to be a complete 180 from what you guys claim on the website, a 180 lack of any communication or transparency on this project that is for us, the citizens. And every attempt I've made to just ask a few questions about this has gotten no valid response whatsoever. Now, again, my background in IT, I know that projects that operate in secrecy and projects that are meant to serve a customer base but are developed in a vacuum fail. And that's what I'm afraid of is, and that wasn't my original point for looking into this, but now that's my observation. So quite simply, all I was trying to find out is where we were in this project. And since that was obviously new news, and certainly new news to you guys and new news to whatever vendors you're working with, out of pure pride in our state, I wanted to see if we were taking a look at that and seeing if we had plans to be able to support that new feature from Apple. And because of the rough timeline I understand this project to be on, we will quite frankly look absolutely ridiculous if we launch our program around the same time that Apple comes out with their official support for government IDs and we don't support it. I read and was delighted at something on the website from Terry Rhodes, Executive Director of Florida Highway Safety. He said, this innovative project will turn the state into a national leader by offering digital identification that is secure and trustworthy. And how foolish will we look if we don't support a feature on all iPhones? So that was my original question. Again, I'm highly disturbed by the response I've gotten from the team as a whole. Someone tell me if I'm wrong, and maybe someone just answer the technical question, but maybe please explain why the team as a whole is being so secretive.
Jeff, this is Terrace, and first of all, I apologize, but if I received the message from you, I will follow up.
No, and I apologize for interrupting, but perhaps the problem is if you didn't, then you have a problem with your team. They are shielding you too well from the public.
I wish that were the case, but I don't get shielded.
Okay.
But boy, do I wish that was the case. But
Okay.
I will, if you'd like me to, if you are willing to post your phone number in the chat immediately following this phone call, I can give you an update on where we are with the project and answer any questions that you have, if you're willing to do that.
Both, I don't know who was all on this, including people from the public, both Coral Griggs and, by the way, I left another voicemail for Aaron today. Aaron Keller Do you know him? They both have my phone number.
Okay. Coral's not here today, but I believe Aaron is, and I will give you a call.
Great. Okay. So great. And I'm sure you could probably answer my technical question in a snap, but let me ask while we're in this, if you can just answer to the team, are you guys aware of that feature? And is that something you guys are looking at? And by the way, let me say the reason I've kind of been pushing is because, again, from my background, I know that if we get too far in a development process where that wasn't supported, and by pure coincidence, we get to the point where it would be too difficult to do it, it just won't happen. So that's why I'm hoping you guys are looking at that now.
If your question is whether or not the team has done research about the Apple feature, the question is yes. The answer to the question is yes, absolutely.
And do we plan on supporting it?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And that's really the simple answer. And frankly, I could save you the time of the call. If that is the answer, that we are looking to support it, or at the very least, we're just making sure that all the technical roads we go down won't prevent us from supporting it or make it more difficult to add that support. That's my only concern.
Right. And I can tell you that we have investigated the feature with Apple. Now, I can't say if Apple changes something on their end that would make what we're doing not compatible, but I can tell you that we have done research, and our initial research leads us to believe that it would be supported. Chad, am I missing something here?
No, you're absolutely correct. And by the way, the feature that you're talking about, just so everybody knows on the call, is part of iOS 15, which at the moment is still in beta. Keep in mind also that one of the things that we're doing with Smart ID, which has been an initiative that we've been doing in cooperation with AMBA, as well as ISO, is interoperability between iOS and Android devices. So the feature you're talking about is also specific to only people that have iPhones. So that's just for clarification, but we do plan on supporting that once we are able to.
Okay. Well, now you say once we're able to, is that a limitation on you guys or on Apple?
Just the fact that it's in beta right now and it's not out there. And we need to work with Apple to support that.
No, but in other words, some states are already official partners working with them. They've been publicly recognized as official partners who will be part of the initial release of that feature.
Correct. And we've even worked with them. You're probably speaking about TSA. And yes, we've even talked with them before. But from a technical perspective, we'll have to work out how that integration would be. It will probably be some type of export to that card for iOS holders, for iPhone holders. But I just wanted to point out that keep in mind that we do have to support Android devices too. So it's just something to think
about. Of course. And obviously there should be nothing in supporting this that would preclude you from doing that. And I'm not aware of them having announced any similar features. So it's a moot point. And obviously there's a few people out there with iPhones.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. So that said, so that's great. And frankly, those were all my technical questions. As long as you guys are striving to support it, hopefully sooner than later, and you probably know it won't even be released at the time iOS 15 is released. It will be released sometime after that. So you guys have some time as long as you're not doing anything that will prevent you from supporting it. That's awesome. Can anyone then talk to the point, or maybe Terrence, as much as they are not shielding you, they certainly did a good job of that. Is my assumption wrong? Is there not, or are you guys not trying to keep this secret? And then I just had a kind of pour several coincidences of the responses I've gotten.
No, I would say we're not trying to keep this secret. We've been reporting on this project through this process. These videos are posted on YouTube. I did 3 presentations to the legislature during this past session as well. I've done presentations to the Florida tax collectors who, utilize our systems, partners with us as well. I've done presentations to law enforcement organizations as well. As a matter of fact, we have someone doing a presentation to the Teen Driver Coalition today. There's another presentation that we're doing at the end of the month. So it's no secret. And like I said, I apologize not being shielded. So if there's ever time you want to reach out to me, please do so. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get back to you in this case, but I will.
Yeah, so, I'll just leave it with this. I'm delighted to hear that. Thank you. Maybe it's just, again, just coincidence that it just happened this way. If you wouldn't mind maybe just grabbing my email address from either of them, Coral or Aaron, and it doesn't even have to be today, maybe just shoot me an email so that I have your contact. And by the way, I'm happy to participate in the pilot moving forward if that's helpful for you guys. And otherwise, thank you for all the clarification. That answers all my questions.
Okay, thank you. No problem, thank you. All right, Joe.
All right, there's no other questions on Florida Smarty. Let's move on to ECM.
All right, good afternoon. So for ECM, you notice over on the far right, all our stoplight chart is all green. Because you look at our important activities going into this month, the dual riding is already live since this was updated in our stage environment. So they're doing the regression testing with that now. So we need to work on completing the regression testing, which should be happening in short order. We're working on some system conversion to get us set up as we get ready to move into the user acceptance testing. And then we have a go live date of September 10th. So things are looking good. We were carrying a risk 97 for not having operational staff really to turn the project over once we went live. And that risk was closed on the 21st last month. We now have a primary and an alternate assigned to the project so they could start transition that to operations. Do I have any questions for ECM? Thank you, Joe.
All right, and we already covered the last slide on portal. Thanks, Andrea. So any questions overall on the program status?
Okay, all right. Any general questions for the team? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all. We
Have a good
appreciate it.
day. Thank you.
All right.